Everyone, thank you for joining us tonight at the Stormwater Board meeting for Town of Cedar Lake. If you'll please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll start off with the roll call tonight.
Thomas Frick.
Here.
Daniel Enright.
Here.
Ryan Leipsic.
Here.
John Oliphant.
Here.
Eric Bozma.
Here.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
All right, we did not have the completed minutes from the May Stormwater Board meeting, and once those are completed, we'll review those and approve those at a future meeting. Getting into old business, we're going to have Chuck Becker, 7513 West 136th Avenue.
I have an update from Rick on that. He's spoken with Mr. Becker. We sent our resolution to Indiana Department of Homeland Security proving that we have adopted the latest Lake County multi-hazard mitigation plan. They were sending it on to FEMA. Once FEMA acknowledges it, then we become eligible to apply for the buyout funds for repetitively flooded properties. We have not heard back on the status of this as of June 3rd.
Okay. All right, thank you for that update. I guess we'll just wait and see when FEMA responds back, or excuse me, the DHS responds back from that. Next old business is Lynn's Way, Cary Street specifically.
So I was working on coordinating a meeting for that and notifying a couple of the residents last week. We were aiming for a meeting this evening or tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock, but when I looked at the weather and all the rain we were anticipating this week, it didn't make sense to have a neighborhood project that we'd have to reschedule. So we're coordinating either for Monday or Thursday of next week. I just need to verify with Tim his availability because we have council and unsafe Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
So I've spoken with almost all of the property owners. They're just making sure they don't take down any extra fence panels than they need to.
All right.
Now, this meeting that's being proposed is going to be on-site or here?
It'll be on site.
Okay.
So there's 16 affected properties in that project area. It made more sense just to kind of have a neighborhood meeting on site to, I hate to say pick a street corner to meet on, but that's pretty much what we'll do, and then have a summary of the project and move our way down the street and hopefully have an efficient meeting.
Okay, so proposed meetings are either going to be the 14th or the 17th?
That will be our goal.
All right.
Obviously, I'm going to check the weather again for next week, but and maybe even throw in a rain date just in case.
Make sure to bring umbrellas and see all the water going into the pipe.
Set up a big tent and black party, right?
We don't want to be there that long.
No.
All right, thank you. Please, I would love to attend, so I know the fellow board members would love to attend too. Okay. Moving on to item C,
If I could back up,
Yes.
Brian, once I have the date confirmed, I'll double check Wendy or I with you, because we will need to advertise if 2 or more of you attend.
Okay.
2 or more.
Well, we're not voting, it's almost like a work session,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a majority of you. I'll confirm the date.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
2 or, oh, just 2 or more.
Yeah. Thanks for falling on that sword, though.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you, Jill. Moving on, drainage issues at 9080 West 129th.
Wait. This is the one that Mr. Kubiak and his wife came into and brought up last meeting, I handed out kind of two separate issues. One to the north property line of the Security Act, and then there's also one on the other side of the hill, kind of down the street at 88.6, that we're kind of calling the web parcel. We'll start with Kubiak's first. So, conceptual design is essentially installing a 12-inch pipe on the rear yards of Havenwood and jogging it over to Tim's lot before outletting into property that's actually owned by the Legion. And essentially, it's the same flow path per se, it's just kind of getting there in a different way. Essentially, the Pulowski property is the only property that's built on. The Price Point Builders parcel to the west is currently being built on, and the Freeze property is vacant. We would need roughly a 10 to 12 foot easement on those parcels. Tim said he already has a 20 foot easement on his parcel. So, and we likely would need a tiny easement from the Legion in order to outfall. It's essentially the railroad right away, but they own that parcel, so it's easier dealing with them than it is with CFS. There will be essentially a 300 plus foot storm sewer installed on those southern parcels before we can kind of cut through that hill and drain it to the west. The section that is kind of in the lowest part is the Pulowski's property. It would actually be a perforated pipe buried in a stone trench to help drain down to that lower area. That fence has been perpetually rotting because the water just kind of sits there, so that'll help aid in that. And the extension to the east will also tie in Malaric's sump pump, a future sump pump on the freezes, and then Price Point, I'm not sure if they have sump pump or not, they can tie it into structure 13 or structure 14 when they're done building the house. But I think it's so high, they may just build a drain at gravity, but may just tie their footing drains into it. This would require removing Tim's fence along the Pulowski parcel and putting it back. Fortunately, I think he just replaced that fence last year. So we'll figure out if we can pull off less than that, but we'll have to figure that out as we move forward. You can see the estimate on the back, that's high. Just to give you an idea, we normally present estimates that for bidding costs, going out to an actual contractor. The way we've been working some of the previous storm board projects over the last year and a half, essentially the town's been buying materials, giving it to the selected contractor, which is typically 1 of 3, saves a whole bunch of money. Kind of as an idea, Beeman's, I think we estimated around 17.5, and I think they came in below 10. So take these numbers with a grain of salt. They're more for quantity more than anything. It's all going to be dependent on how they're kind of pitched out. So that's that. So we essentially would need 3 easements. I know Tim said he's already talked to the owner of the house being built and then the current owner out there, and they said they'd be willing to grant them. I don't think there's been any discussion with the Freezes because there is no structure there right now, and I'm not sure where they live. They actually have a Meadowlark Lane address, which I think is also in Havenwood, ironically. So they may just have bought that and are only onto it. So, happy to answer any questions. This is not going to be sized for a 100-year event. It's more to just kind of drain a repetitive wet area. Tim understands that larger events will still kind of go down his rear yard there. You can kind of see the contours heading southwest. That's still a primary drainage way. It will remain that way. This will just help drain it down, more deal with nuisance drainage. There's no rear yard storm sewer pretty much all throughout.
And where will this perforated drain?
So it'll be between structures 11 and 13. The rest of it will be solid wall pipe. That's just the lowest part of that area, essentially on the entirety of the rear of the Pulowski's property.
Yeah, because on your section, it shows no pipe.
Yeah, that's just a cut. I don't think we really need that. That's just trying to collect it better. That runs essentially, you can see the A It can be under there. We can add that, just more detail.
My
Yeah,
guess,
it'll be under there. It'll kind of be
okay,
like where the
but
section
that's what I
line
wanted to know.
is.
So there'll be a swale
Yep,
and the pipe will be at the lowest.
yeah,
Okay, because it's not showing up.
yeah. And to be honest with you, there's a limit to how much, swale we can actually build there. The pictures that Tim brought last week, there's a huge grade difference coming off that rear patio and the Pulaski down to where we're gonna be. So we can't really cut a whole lot through there. It's more gonna be some fine grading on top of the pipe trench. More than anything.
Okay. So we're still looking for easements in the neighborhood?
Yes, that would have to be started. I don't know if that's even begun.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, some
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, Tim's had conversations because they're his neighbors, and one still hasn't, it's still building, so that builder at least is known to the building department, so I think there's decent discussion with the Pulowskis and Price Point Builders, but I don't know if any discussion has been created with trees yet.
Just for my own, is a conversation by Tim an official part of the town doing, or do we need to generate some kind of an official, because Tim is involved in this?
There will obviously have to be some type of official dialogue with, formal legal documents that they have to sign, so, but, I mean, an initial upfront discussion like this isn't a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, if they're not gonna play ball at all, then that kind of changes things. Because there was thought about putting it all on Tim's parcel, but then we get into more tree issues at that point, and they're big, big oak trees.
Right.
So, and part of this is to tie in some of this stuff, so it has to be on the other side of the fence line, preferably.
So should this board, have someone generate something official before we proceed, or what do we do? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, you can make a recommendation to staff to, formally contact the 3 residents that we need easements from. Because if they're gonna say no, then that pretty much stops us in our track, and we have to go back to another option.
And won't we have to have a legal document drawn up by the attorney for them to sign?
Yeah, we'll have to take the recorded plat and basically create a legal document that gives it to Beaman and have them sign it. This would likely be a permanent easement. Maybe, I don't know, that's up for discussion.
Is this a project that the Stormwater Board is favorable with us pursuing? Reaching out to the residents on easements, we'll work on whether or not it needs to be a permanent or temporary easement. Similar, it's pretty similar to some of the projects we did in Havenwood. Whether it'll be done, obviously, with one of our contractors or Public Works as a contractor. You guys are a little bit busy, I think, right now. But is this a project that the Storm Board's in favor of us pursuing and taking that next step?
Okay.
Don just said it has to be a permanent easement, right?
I've changed it. It may be permanent, temporary. We've done 2 of these in Havenwood now, I think, and I can't remember if they're temporary or permanent.
We've done both. There's some permanent for the restoration, or temporary for restoration, and then some was permanent where we can get in and maintain it.
And this one would be, I changed my mind, because this one's gonna be tough to maintain. You really can't get access from the Havenwood parcels with the grade changes immense. And then otherwise we'd be going down Tim's driveway. to Get access to easement. That'd be the only way you can do it.
The Beaman,
Customers.
the Beaman project was a project that we did with one of our contractors, but once we did the project and restored it, which is later on your agenda here, they have to maintain that.
Same with the Cedar Creek. That was a temporary easement as well. So, I mean, that's up for discussion. I mean, once we get the agreement from the parties, that's semantics in my opinion. I mean, obviously they would have to say yea or nay to a temporary or permanent, but I imagine it will be temporary the more I think about it, for access reasons, long term.
Tom, can you just reiterate what you were talking about, what you had said, with the property owners and waiting in order?
Yeah, wait, before we move on it, see if they're gonna use a legal easement, like, and.
Sorry. Doesn't seem like they're on up there.
You want to pull your mic down?
It's probably on, right?
Is this on? How about now? Sorry.
No, I usually can hear from the speakers, and I wasn't hearing it.
I'm not motioning it, I'm just,
No, I think you bring up a good point. I just want to get on the record.
just like what Dan was saying with, street,
Lindsay,
yeah, no, not Lindsay,
with Jiggery?
yeah.
Both of them. Both of them.
One led to the other.
Yeah.
I gotta, wait a minute.
So then I guess what I'll do is I'll make a motion that we do generate and start this process as far as reaching out to the affected homeowners.
Okay.
Whatever channel that needs to go through, whether it go through you, Jill, or through,
The proper channels.
yes.
I'll second that.
Do we need a vote?
Yes.
Thomas Frick,
Yes.
Daniel Enright,
Yes.
Ryan Leesick,
Yes.
Don Allison.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
That's all right.
no.
You're fine.
All right, so we'll proceed on that. The second one is what we're calling the web parcel, which is 6 parcels to the east. This guy over here. So the north part of 129th Place is kind of divided by a high point, significant high point. Is just east of 2 blocks east of Tim. As you kind of progress to the east, we get to this parcel. Project would be limited to just this one parcel on his northern property line. There's an existing 12-inch line that essentially starts, right where my cursor is up here. You can see it. His northeast corner and runs all the way down into a ravine that actually goes kind of east and then through Public Works and then to the lake. Problem with that pipe is it run-ups kind of bypasses it. And actually kind of heads southeast through Mr. Webb's parcel, kind of through this guy's driveway, and then roundabout he makes its way to 129th, turns the corner at the emergency access point of Havenwood, goes up a interestingly graded ditch, and then gets in the same location as that 12. So it kind of gets the same part, just kind of roundaboutly goes south, then north, then east. So we want to kind of try to control that a little bit better, and essentially it's a grading project more than anything, creating a swale on the northern part of Mr. Webb's parcel, hopefully not touching any of his large oak trees back there, and trying to corral some of the rear yard drainage from Havenwood and actually direct it more efficiently to the existing storm inlet. So this would require an easement from Mr. Webb, probably in 20-foot ballpark, and hopefully prevent overflows down his property. Obviously, there's still surface drainage on his own property and the neighboring property that's still going to go that way, but it should limit it now and collect some of the nuisance drainage from the rear yards of Havenwood. So, as you can see, it's a rather small swale. There's kind of a backside berm, so it'll be maybe 1.5 foot deep, 2 feet in some of the deepest areas. That should better collect all the runoff and actually get it out and dry up some of his property. So Mr. Webb has not actually formally come to this meeting. This has kind of been discussed with Tim's issues because it's his neighborhood and he knows it well. So we've been out there in the past and seen it. That's really the best thing we can do. We don't know what the condition of that 12-inch pipe is. And we're not actually sure who put it in because I think it's actually not on Havenwood's parcel. I think it's actually on 129th Woodland Hills subdivision parcel. So it's not on any kind of storm sewer atlases we have. It's just there. So don't know who put it in.
Is that Crater Lake in Havenwood?
This would be
Used to be called that.
south of it. There's Crater Lake. down in this area. So this actually kind of comes down into this low-lying area behind Public Works and actually goes down towards Mrs. Wilson. And gets into that,
Jennifer?
yeah, gets into that hodgepodge down there. So that's entirely different issue. But that's all tributary to it. So obviously a lot cheaper. Will likely be less than that. It's all a surface grading issue, restoration. We may change out the inlet of the existing storm sewer to give it a little more capacity to prevent it from clogging. I think it's just a flat top right now. We may put a beehive on it, but and if there are any accessible sump pumps in the area, we'll tie them in as well. So that one's pretty minor, but needs kind of discussions with the one landowner who need access through their parcel as well to make that job work.
So this is something else that Tim's working on?
No, it's just in Tim's neighborhood. It's just an issue in his neighborhood. This is, like I said, about 6 lots east of him. 5. He and I walked this entire line maybe last fall. That's how we're aware of it. Not the worst area. I'm not sure how much this drainage actually affects homes. But it's an odd area. Essentially just creating a more efficient system. That would be the goal, at least. I mean, this is something Public Works might be able to handle at any time, but...
Yeah, because we put a culvert pipe east of the access road, I think it was last year or the year before.
Yeah, right here.
Because they were having problems swing time. And I know when we went a couple more houses down and it kind of cleared out that section, because it goes behind our
Deep ramp this
shop.
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a water main break too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, par for the course of paving wood, not the greatest drainage design. This one's kind of been paying for it ever since, but yeah, and this is why we have rear structures now everywhere. To kind of eliminate a lot of these nuisance scenarios. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Do you think it would be able to help out a little bit to the Mary Joan Dickinson property? Is it going to help out at all to that property, the Dickinson property?
She's 132nd place. It's nowhere near it.
Okay.
She's down in Meyer Manor. We went out and looked at that parcel 2 weeks ago. I guess we can talk about that and update if you like.
We got one other item that should be on here for old business.
I know. I got it. Maltese.
That Dan and I went out to 13415 Edison Street.
We're getting there.
Okay.
Are we done with this item?
Yeah,
I don't see that on here.
I wrote it down.
Okay.
I wrote it down.
Yeah. That was my piece.
They requested to be moved to the July 15th meeting. They were unable to make this
Yeah.
meeting.
Well, we can at least give an update on it.
Okay.
Have a small update.
All right, I move to pursue this project.
I think I did the same thing about at least having staff talk to the homeowner if they're willing to discuss.
And then put it to a vote.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
I second it.
Okay. Dan Enright,
Yes.
Thomas Frick,
Yes.
Ryan Lisek,
Yes.
Okay, so I guess there's a D here.
So,
Mal-
134th and Edison?
13415 Edison, the Maltese parcel. I know, Bob, you're out there with Dan, Eric, I think, right after the meeting?
Just Dan and I.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, just to let, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I had a conversation with Tom Stevens, and they have a problem with the sewer back.
We do.
And that they were supposed to work out of a place out of Chicago, and somebody stole the batteries out of the vehicle, and they had to put new or not new, but they put different batteries in it so Tom could get it out of there. And he's got it in Whitestown, and he thought he was gonna get it back, but then they discovered another problem with it, and once that gets back, he's gonna go over there and pump those catch basins out. And then somebody came out to us and complained about potholes, and Tom took care of that too.
No, I got taken care of the day after. I ran out there
Yeah,
the
we
next morning
heard it.
and met Eric, and they were potholing. So there is actually a small storm sewer out there that kind of runs across, kind of along the Maltese's northern property boundary, across the road, and then heads southwest, I think, under his western neighbor's driveway, and then somehow outlets to the southwest. The grades started falling off. Yeah, the basins were full.
Yeah.
There's a 4-inch, just HDPE drain tile heading to the east through Mr. Maltese's parcel. I don't know where it goes, I don't know what's draining, but there's existing low areas in his rear yard that have likely been there for years.
The neighbor on the west side said that from that catch basin, there's a drainage pipe that kind of goes to the south and then goes back to the west and drains into the ravine over there.
Yeah, it most likely drains in the general direction of a culvert under 135th, which is the next east-west improved road, essentially. Yeah, down there, and it gets into that large wetland complex on the east side of the road. It somehow gets down there. I'm not 100% sure how.
Well,
but
the problem is that the east side of the road was full of water, and the west side of the road was dry. And the east it's supposed to
The catch basin.
flow. Yeah, it's supposed to flow. If it's supposed to flow to the west, it isn't doing it.
Well, here's the issue. Historically, I think that's just a historically low spot. That is heavily wooded out there, meaning that low spot hasn't been changed in a number of years.
But the catch basin on the west had the water, and I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that going to the west, it's plugged up for nothing being in the other catch basin.
I don't think that was ever really intended to drain the poorly drained area. I think it was only intended to drain the road, because there is a 4-inch perforated tile that heads east, but I don't know where it was going, and I doubt it goes all the way back there. Those are really shallow basins. There's a good chance that those basins might actually be slightly higher than that low spot back there. So here we get back into the same issue about liability or responsibility of the town to drain historically low areas that were not created by the town. They've just been there ever since likely the town's been incorporated.
Before we were incorporated.
There's a good chance it's been there that long. I mean, the trees back there look well established. And I have a feeling Mr. Maltese, who said he bought this parcel in January, was unaware of the low-lying areas in his rear yard because of the winter.
He used to live in Lynn's Way.
Yeah. So you're back to that delicate discussion. So we'll know more about it when we get the back truck back and actually suck that out and try to track the system a little bit better. But this is another one of those where you have just have a low-lying rear area.
We believe it goes to the west, because Tyler and I did go down the next block, but it's so heavily wooded back there, I can't.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it drains into the ravine.
our storm sewer line kind of just loses it southwest of his driveway.
Yeah, so, but once we get the back truck, that's first on the list to go out to, so. I've been asking every day. You know, there's a few other projects we need the truck for too that we are unable to do because we don't have it, so.
Yeah. So we're working on it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Look forward to an update on that project. Going to update items. 137th and Lowerman.
This one actually has some movement. we were doing a site visit with Cedar Lake Ministries about 2 weeks ago. And understood that they actually installed a small standpipe next into a small system on their property at the southeast corner. That kind of drains, roundaboutly down the 7th Street corridor, down the walkway and out. Kind of the similar corridor that we proposed 2-3 years ago now. They just kind of did it on their own. And it may have been existing, just nobody knew it was there. Essentially, it looks like what we call a standpipe right now, so if you see in farm fields, big plastic perforated thing, that's what it is. Essentially almost like an L that goes into it. It might be 8 inches. They essentially gave us permission to install we'll call it a temporary pipe, across Lowerman into that standpipe, which would hopefully temporarily drain this area down until we get to the Birch Street improvements. Problem is we have to cut through a brand new road, but it's going to be super shallow. So, and we're only going to have about 6 inches of cover, so it has to be ductile. But when we have, one of the town contractors in town for something bigger, they may be able to do that really quick. That would at least provide at least temporary outfall. Also, Cedar Lake Ministries is discussing about bringing a swale that they've kind of constructed through with this northern wood area. They're supposed to take that all the way up to the mailbox area, which also might provide another access point. So things are moving a little bit on this. We did complete a level survey of this intersection to figure out if it was even viable, and I think it's viable. Like I said, it's going to be a shallow pipe, but I think it'll at least provide a temporary connection. We need to back out and clean out. There's a 4-inch HDPE that was installed under the sidewalk that's pretty clogged up with gunk, mainly because it doesn't have an outfall, so it just clogs all the time. So temporarily, I think we have a solution to drain this down in the interim until we can do better improvements with Birch Street. So we're probably going to work on that with Public Works, or like I said, town contractor if we have them in town for other stuff. So positive.
All right, how about Sherman Street?
I have no good update on that one. That's still kind of linked to the larger subdivision project. So.
If I can go back to 107th and Lowerman, did a resident send you a video of stormwater impact to the parcel?
So that's different.
Lowerman?
That's Cliff's property. I emailed him back. He kind of listened to our last meeting and thought we were talking about something around his parcel, but he's actually all the way down here. He is this guy, the no owner, no mailing address guy. That is Cliff's parcel. There's currently a culvert that crosses from the Ministries down his southern property line, so somewhere in this vicinity.
They're referring to Cliff, the IT?
Yep.
And that's in the Cedar Lake Ministries property?
He is not. The pipe that crosses under Lowerman takes a lot of drainage from the Ministries from the east. And this all kind of drains down his southern lot line, drains down in here and kind of splits this house before it gets into Sleepy Hollow. I don't think Cliff necessarily has a problem with his building, but when this really rains, it's a decent amount of water. We took a video of it. One of the issues is I don't know if there's a driveway culvert on his southern neighbor, so it's forcing everything to go down that lot line because the ditch actually gets pretty established as we go south. This is one reason we didn't want to take 137th and Lowerman down here because there are already issues like this. His southwest neighbor, I don't really know too about that because he's actually in the floodplain of Sleepy Hollow. So Cliff is not, but the one solution is maybe to see if there is a driveway culvert under his southern neighbor. If it's there, clean it out, replace it. At least that would give it a secondary path south and essentially the same final location down in Sleepy Hollow. But yeah, I think Cliff was listening to the last video and thought we were near his parcel, but He's all the way down here, and the Stroman parcel's all the way up here. They're kind of different watersheds per se. So I had emailed Cliff and let him know that, and I didn't hear back from him. But Tim offered to meet him out there as well. So.
I just wanted to bring it up since it was in the same general area.
Yeah, I don't think there's a culvert pipe, but. I mean,
Under that one?
We can go look.
I know there are as you head further
Yeah,
south,
farther south.
but that just may be,
You click on Cliff's parcel and see if there's a street view of it.
And I know we did
I don't,
put a little swale, like right as you go into the
No,
main
it's
street,
right there.
right around that curve, we did that last year.
Added it up there, the third one from your right. If the data is available, then it'll load. Some street data.
Did not found. Well, Cliff is like somehow, his parcel has no information, which is impressive.
I know why.
Huh?
Just leave that. I know why. I'll tell you later.
So, yeah, I got nothing on that one then. It's not located. So, yeah, I mean, I think the two to the south of that one, I think have culverts. I mean, it becomes a little more defined there, and there's a buried culvert under 139th Ave where it becomes Birch. That's due to be replaced with either the Birch Street improvements or Noble Oaks improvements, whichever. But, I mean, that's always something we can add. If there is an issue there, add it to Birch Street or add it to Noble Oaks.
And who maintains Sleepy Hollow Ditch? Is that ours or?
It is not a regulated drain. It is considered a mutual drain. So it is
Not the county?
It's not a regulated drain. No.
So who controls it? Us?
It's a combination of homeowners, and if there is an easement, it's a mutual drain, which is still technically a homeowner responsibility to maintain. Which,
Because we did that 219 project over there in Utopia, and that all drains into Sleepy Hollow.
it does, but that was for a different reason, I guess. More of a flooding restraint. For maintenance, mutual drains are kind of a bit of a gray area, but without an easement on them, they are the responsibility of the homeowner, in my opinion.
Yeah, because now, Beacon Point's got an outfall going into that too.
Restricted, at least.
Yes,
But,
it is going in there.
yeah, I mean, there are other issues that we can get into about Sleepy Hollow. There are some culverts south of there that are debatably who owns them, and they're in rough shape. So there's going to be up to some discussion made at some point about responsibility. I don't know if the forum's now, but that'll have to be discussed at some point.
There's no way we can turn it over to the county?
Call
You can call them. I think I know what their answer is. Yeah, I think I know what their answer is. I mean, a lot of these parcels, as you head south, they actually extend across the entirety of the ditch. So it would be really hard to get easements through there, even regulated drain easements. But
Because we just cleaned the one out on 142nd of Auburn, we went down there and cleaned it all out, and we do maintain that farther.
and some of those are actually within right-of-way, so they would be the town's responsibility. It's just maintenance of, the remainder of the ditch. I mean, we've had discussions about the Warrenhoff parcel west of the Parish Bridge. That's whose responsibility is. It's totally on Warrenhoff parcel. But there's some debate about whose responsibility it is to do it, and then if it's the town, if it's not. We don't have any legal right to access, so, as far as I know.
Okay.
So,
Just wanted to ask.
yeah, it's a large-scale issue. Not issue, but discussion.
We've got those culvert pipes on 145th that are all collapsed in, and I talked to Bill Emerson about them, and he said maybe we could work out a deal, but they're not responsible for replacing the pipes under 145th east of Morris.
Also another interesting debate. The county doesn't like claiming responsibility of structures on regulated drains, even though they maintain them. It's sometimes ticket
Oh, I
highway
tried.
department. Yeah, it's a large discussion to have about responsibility. I'll grant you that. So,
Okay. So no update for Sherman. Moving on to item C, Jacob Beeman, 9208 West, 142nd Place.
they have been seated,
Run.
so yeah.
It's complete, and I spoke with Dana this morning, and they are happy with the project, all good, closed, done.
Is that Mrs. B? Mrs. B?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're even ready to mow it. That's all.
And you can remove that from the agenda.
Yep.
All right, good job. Moving on for an update at Woods of Cedar Creek.
The punch list was issued to the contractor since we're still holding 10% of their money. Haven't said anything, so we know we have some small punch list items regarding the trench settling a little bit. Got that last month. Not a big issue, but there are a couple ankle breakers out there. They need to peel back some of the sod and fill them in. So that's all I got on that one.
All right, moving on to new business. Sorry.
Let's update Miss Dixon's parcel since she was here last meeting. I met Rick and Tim out there maybe 2 weeks ago or so. Kind of went over some of our spots, some of our designs that we had put together previously. Kind of saw everything. They both kind of said that we should do it right and not try to Band-Aid it. So they have our cost estimate, and it goes back to a money thing. So there may be some stormwater funding coming up through the state and the coronavirus funding, what they call SWIFT grants, that are due mid-July. They're super competitive. There's $100 million. They're divided between stormwater, drinking water, and sanitary for the entire state.
Oh.
So they're competitive. There's 2 cycles of them. There's one in July this year and one in July next year. But we kind of have 10 suggested, projects that may or may not go in. This is one of them. We still need to sit down with Rick, Joe, and staff about which ones we may or may not go, because there's likely going to be water and sanitary involved. So super competitive, but it's an option. It's up for debate on how much they may break out for strictly only funding the stormwater aspect of it and not the road aspect of it. We need to do a little more research before we submit anything, but it's there. It's a funding source potentially, but like I said, certainly not guaranteed by any means.
Who is gonna submit the grant?
The town has to submit it.
Huh?
The town has to submit it.
Okay.
It has to come
And
from.
who on the town level will
municipality.
do that? Rick or you or?
Between Rick, myself, Tim, and Don.
Okay.
Don put the majority of the information together for me.
All right.
Funding for stormwater, sanitary, and
Water.
wastewater.
It's through the state.
For the state.
It's called the SWIFT grant, which is, I don't even know what that stands for. It's off the top of my head.
And then you said
It's
it's
an
100
infrastructure
million?
For
grant.
the state.
The 100 million?
What's the cap? Yeah.
We know.
I don't know if there is a cap. I think there's a cap per project. And I think municipality or nonprofit or anybody can submit as many applications as they want. And it's actually under one application, they can submit as many projects as they want. The way I've read it. But the language for it literally just came out like a week ago. And it's due in about a month.
What office is there?
I don't know.
I don't
I
remember
can
off
see
the
it.
top of my
I can
head.
see
I
the
can see
letterhead.
the advertisement.
Yeah, I can see the letterhead. I don't know. Oh,
Anyone who already has a application in though for any of these type of projects through the state revolving fund automatically transfers over to the SWIFT grant, so.
Yeah, and you can piggyback this with existing coronavirus funding, which is kind of unique as your share. It's essentially a 50-50 depending on your MVI ratio with your sanitary, it's weird. It's a weird match. But,
So it's like a 50-50 match?
I think it will be. We have to run some numbers to figure it out, but most likely.
So the idea would be to include the Dixon property.
Maybe. And we have about a list of about
10 properties or 10 applications?
10 different just stormwater projects. I know Rick's talking with Nice about wastewater and water too. So there's a lot that can.
SWIF is, goodness, I just switched it. State Water Infrastructure Fund.
It's kind of
And it's
linked
under
to-
the Indiana Finance Authority.
There you go. That's it. And they kind of base it around the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, the CWSRF, which has very, very broad language on what is eligible. So you could get, that's the reason it's likely going to be super competitive, not just because $100 million over the state doesn't go that far, but a lot of different projects are eligible. Like, they're very general eligibility requirements. These are not, like, one of the few things that isn't allowed is the Land Act. So, but you can reimburse, like, design services a lot don't do. So you can do planning with it. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with it. So it'll be interesting.
How about a vac truck?
Maybe.
Boy, love that.
New batteries. So, yeah, we're kind of back to where we were before. There's no good quick Band-Aid for it, just based on how her property how the road's crowned. You need curb to pick it up. And if you're going to do curb, you might as well just redo the road at that point.
Because that's what Tim was talking about, like taking inch
We
off.
thought we could like shave the Marquette, so Marquette's almost like a table here.
Yeah.
Almost shaving some of this off and try to get it off to this way. Well, if you do that, then you're going to hammer this guy, who likely already has similar issues to Miss Dixon. But you'd have to buck this grade to get it on pavement if you just put in like a small curb line. Now you're forcing more water into a stormwater system down 132nd Avenue, which is really shallow and undersized in its own right.
And it's flat too, right?
It's dead flat. I mean, it's so flat that it's, influenced by the lake levels a lot. We had those discussions before in Minor Manor. So super, super flat. They're all ductile because there's no cover on them. So in order to do it right, we need to collect it there. And the only way we know how to collect it and actually efficiently without having water just bypass the inlets is to get it in the curb. So, I mean, we discussed about potentially just cutting a curb in, but at that point you're going to put in 150 to 200 feet of curb on an old road. What's the point? It's going to look really awful. So, kind of went back to our original thought about just redoing that entire road. I mean, in all honesty, it's one of the few roads in there that wasn't redone as part of Minor Manor. So I don't know if they just ran out of money or what.
That's what happened, we ran out of money.
I think it was capital improvement plan. Actually, it may have been the first one. I think it was the first one in 07 or 08. So I mean, it's been there a long time. So that's where we're at.
Okay, that's how I left it at that. When we had the meeting last time, that's how I felt after. It's not worth putting all the money into it unless it's the silver bullet that solves the problem.
Yeah.
And putting on Band-Aids after Band-Aid after Band-Aid and fix it in 2-3 years. Okay. So see where that comes from. All right. Thanks for the update. Moving on to new business. Jeff Bunge, 14619. Bunge, I apologize. State your name and address.
Jeff Bunge, I reside at 14619 Bell Place. And as part of a project that I was doing at home, I have a paving contractor that has given me a quote. I have a proposal to get my driveway replaced. And we've had an issue with stormwater rushing down Bell. Probably as long as I can remember. It's gotten to the point where it comes down with such velocity that I've got pictures for you, but there's a couple of areas where the pavement has actually gone away, and the only thing that's there is gravel and rubble. So I had talked to Tim. He informed me about the culvert replacement and or replacement or program that the town has. And I'm figuring if I want to replace my driveway and my pavement, my hard packed area, that I should look at getting the drainage issue resolved before. Oh, I want to try to keep the horse before the cart here. So from the end of Bell, the north end at 146, down to my driveway, Mr. Kolak, 10 years ago, I presented this to the board probably 2 or 3 years after the drain water incremental tax increase was proposed. And I'm guessing that was at least 12, 11, 13 years ago, somewhere in that.
07, 08 again.
Okay, and Mr. Parker, my councilman at the time, has been there, seen our issue. Funding's been a problem, but then when Tim told me about this culvert replacement program, I figured this is something I'd like to get on board with.
And that's to replace a culvert under your driveway?
I have no culvert under my driveway.
Okay.
The only over there, well, the road down Bell, at one time had a relatively decent crown to it, so stormwater was shared by everybody down the street, and it fell, into the either side of the street. But now with the deterioration of the pavement now all the way from 146 all the way to my driveway, it ends up in my driveway.
Would a culvert under your driveway help?
No.
No?
You can see the contours, the crown's kind of, it sheds northwest and southeast, it looks like. And pretty good fall from 146 all the way down.
I think it's about 3.5 feet. And
oh, it's more than that.
Well, okay.
I mean, from 146 to your parcel, close to 10 probably. 8 feet. And then your house is quite a bit lower than the road.
And then the house is probably another 1.5 feet down from the end of my driveway at the road.
So the program Tim is discussing is not an official policy yet that I'm aware of. This board has discussed it, and perhaps it's been implemented one or two times, but it's not an official policy yet. Essentially the cost share, the memo we put together.
We have done other driveway culvert replacements.
Well, I don't think a culvert's going to help him.
Yeah. I mean, what's the sense of putting a culvert in if it's not going to do anything?
Because do you have any, definable roadway swales? Along the edges of the pavement?
I did bring some pictures. Well, this is what I'm talking. This is basically where the end of my driveway here meets the road.
North.
And this is looking north up Bell Place. Okay. And this one is the same area, just shows you
I can see.
a little bit better detail of how the pavement is crumbled.
The answer would be no. The roadside swale, no culvert's not gonna do a whole lot.
The one thing that they had talked about at one time too was putting a catch basin
Mm-hmm.
on the northeast corner of my property there,
Yeah.
and then run some kind of duct under the street, because from the back corner of my garage to the outlet behind me, it falls off
Oh, yeah. You get to
really,
Cedar Creek
really,
at that point.
really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if we did something like that, we'd probably need access from there or back. Something around your side, probably on the north side of your parcel. And we can outlet it back there.
Okay.
I'm guessing Alfred is related to you?
Alfred was my father.
Okay. You own all that lot.
Well, we own that lot. And Cedar Creek runs through.
Yeah, you're just east of that, it's right here pretty much. There it is. So that would be my thought, if you'd likely need something, like we'd probably just put inlets on both sides of the street, and you'd have to run probably on the north side of your parcel to make it effective. Try to catch on the south, or kind of, it would likely just go down your driveway again.
Okay.
You'd have to put something likely up here.
How well can you draw into to the southeast corner of my lot there?
That's as far as I'm going to do.
Because there is, and I think it predates the town, there is a catch basin. It's probably a 2-foot or 30-inch duct that's mounted horizontal, that's filled probably 2/3 of the way or halfway with gravel.
Okay.
And then there is a field tile that runs behind my garage, and it probably runs maybe 6-8 feet off my property line.
On the south side or?
On the south side. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is an unimproved public right of way back there, so there could be something installed back there. I don't think anybody ever knows it exists, but, I mean, because I don't think 146 even really improved to it up here.
I don't believe it does, because that's truly Bell Place, correct, or is that Miracle?
Bell is, so yours actually, it's called Bell, but it's actually formerly recorded as Cedarville Terrace, and then Bell Street's behind you.
Oh, yeah.
The old Cedar Lake, no. Yeah. We can look into it and see, meet Tim out there and see what we can do.
Okay.
And if that catch basin's out there and it's full of debris,
It may be a lost cause.
maybe we can suck that out after
I don't
we
think we can
get done from 134
As I recall,
Just cut wood
the
for a
catch
day, Bob.
basin was put there to alleviate the stormwater that actually crowned from the middle of Bell west. And I think it was my dad's and my neighbor's idea that would be the catch basin as it came down on the left side of Bell, to come down what originally poured down or
To connect into it.
and then connect into it.
How long has it been there, you think?
As long as I've been around, as long as I can recall, 50 years,
Maybe a lost cause at that point.
At
It's probably a clay tile, I
at least
imagine.
40, but, well, it's a clay tile that runs down,
Does that connect into that structure?
I think it does.
Okay. So it's gotta be, I mean, there's so much grade on that thing, even though it's clogged, it probably still does something.
It probably, I'm sure it
Probably runs down in the
still-
ditch.
still does something.
It likely
Because if
goes
you
that
go
way.
out into the woods, where the 8-inch duct or 10-inch duct actually pours out and then falls down into Cedar Creek,
Mhm.
it constantly has
Something.
something in it.
Sure, it's working.
Moving
To
through
some
it.
extent. Well, I can pretty much guarantee you can't get a back truck back there. There's too many trees back there, and that thing weighs a ton, so I
Yeah,
don't think you wanna drive it that far without risking it.
it'd be nice, but.
And if there is a clay tile back there and it was shallow, that back truck would probably crush it, so.
And the main sewer line for the town runs back through that.
Yeah, the main interceptor's back here somewhere, yeah, I remember that on some other plans we've looked at in the past.
I think it runs down 145th to Bell, and then back through the easement, back behind my property, and then goes into what used to be Dudley's property, and then angles into the lift station.
Right here.
Right?
So yeah, I'm kind of becoming aware of this now, so let us do a little research and we'll get back to you.
Okay.
I will talk to Tim. He seems to know more about it than I do. So, yeah, let me talk to him.
I'd like to move forward, like I said, before I put 6,000 hours into a
whole bunch of
you know,
people
project to get my driveway replaced.
I mean, in the perfect world, if this thing was fully constructed, you would have sag inlets at the bottom of it. So, inlets, and it would likely be heading east, is where we would take the water. So it's just a matter of, if we do that, where are we gonna do it? If we do it on your south border, likely it'd be your north border, just because I just wanna pick it up before it gets to you, and then otherwise it's just gonna keep deleting the whole driveway. Can't stop that because your house is low, so try to pick it up before it even gets to you. That would be the thought.
Just east of the golf course.
Just to reiterate, so the problem is there's water flowing from the north to the south to his property. What is it, Bell Street is vastly deteriorated. Bell Place is vastly deteriorated.
And one of the other issues, now I don't know if this is an issue, but this is something that Tim brought up, is that the pavement, and being on the BZA, I've seen this hundreds of times already before, doesn't sit in the middle of the right of way.
Nope.
No,
Right now.
I think it's a 20-foot right of way.
Yep. That would be the other issue, is that we would likely need an easement to even place something on the right side of the road.
Well, isn't there a utility easement that runs down through the right side? Because that's where the NIPSCO poles run through.
30-foot, and this is a 25-foot, this is a main sanitary easement that runs here around the Angels Acres here.
Yep.
Sorry, that's what I was going to look at, because I've been looking at a couple other things in this area. I wanted to see if by chance there was anything on Angels Acres.
Yeah, we can look at the
But then
subdivision
back
too.
here, by the creek, well, these are 100-foot lots, there's a 75-foot regulated drain easement too.
Yeah, it doesn't really do a lot for
Creek,
us,
but
so,
that won't get us close enough.
no. We can take a look at the plat too, the Shades Edition, Plat B. Glorious Shades Editions, they're everywhere over here. And see if there's any recorded easements for NIPSCO, back in the day. But that would be more of probably a strict utility easement, I don't know if we could squeeze our stormwater in there.
Through this one, I tried to get them as best I could, but this shows the 3 utility poles.
Yeah, I can see them on here actually, and they're actually off the right of way. So there's one here, you can see, there's one right in front of your house too, right?
Yeah, there is.
Right there, it looks like, and they're both outside of right of way, of course. I mean, the road's pretty centered at the north part, but it jogs. It comes back to the east and it's right on the edge of it. So that would be problematic. This, if we did get an easement along your north side, that would be permanent, because it would be draining public right of way at that point. So we'd want to maintain that. And then it's just a matter of where do we outlet it. That's interesting. What's this back, on the back part of your
I
parcel?
have a shed.
Shed.
10 by 10.
Okay. Yeah, let us look into it.
You have a current survey? How current is your survey?
I don't think I do. Like I said, I got a drainage flow from, Tony?
Tony Colette?
Yeah, there's too many collacs rolling around my head.
Yeah, he's
Maybe
a surveyor.
So,
Yep.
and, but I don't think I have a plan survey.
So this legal lot of record, it's an old subdivision now. Shade ones are 60s.
This was built in 1960, finished in 1961.
Yeah, and it could have been applied in the 50s, so before the town. But, I think the town has it on file, so I can take a look at it and see what easements we have. I'm willing to bet there's no utility easement on the east side, it's just kind of always been there, and that's just what they do. But, in the perfect world, it'd be included in the public right of way, but it doesn't appear to be. But that's also not a first either. So, yeah, let's look at it and, let you know.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine. I just didn't know that, but I was told this was my first step, so.
It is, you're in the right place.
I'm trying to, you know, objectively give the, whatever good information I can.
No, appreciate the help, insight.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any questions, Jake?
Nope, we'll do some work.
Do you feel bad? Gonna start a file, or?
No, you can take the pictures back. We'll, be out there and you might see us walking around.
I see you got rid of a pine tree.
I did have to get rid of that pine tree.
I know, I was talking with you.
Oh, yeah.
Did your dad build the house?
No.
No.
No, we moved there when I was an infant. We were expecting my younger brother in the two-bedroom house we had, over on Old Lewis Lane, by Toves. So that's when Dad, well, we'd been in business then by 22 years already, 46, 56, I guess 16, 17 years. And, yeah, I don't know who the builder was. I think he built like 4 homes back there, but I don't know where else he built in town.
And it was built in 61.
Are you kidding?
So that was before the town got incorporated in 67.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public work project update?
Just busy, a lot of small projects. We've been working with the sewer department a lot more as well too, with their projects.
Okay, yeah. Any written public comments? Wow. All right, without further ado, I adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.